Hello, and welcome to this tutorial on keyframe tracking in Nuke 7. I've got a nasty shot here. It's a lot of movement. It looks like there's a bit of rolling shutter, and I've got two bars that wipe all the way through the whole of the shot. So not a particularly nice shot to track. So before going to keyframe tracking, I just like to approach this the normal way. I'm going to turn off this middle icon here, which creates keyframes. So you'll always get a keyframe on the first frame that you track from. So press shift and create my first track. I know the image is moving around a lot, so I'll increase the search area and then just track forward. We'll see what happens. And sure enough, as the bar comes through the shot, the track bombs out completely. So now let's see how we'd approach this with keyframe tracking. So I bring up the tracker as normal. Now we start off in exactly the same way as we'd do with normal tracking. I'm going to use Shift key to start a track. And now I've got my first keyframe. Here it is on frame 1. As I scroll down the shot, I can see we've got this bar will come and wipe through, so we know from experience that that will not track. So I'm going to put a second keyframe here. And now what I have are two keyframes. So I'm just going to align, two keyframes set. And these keyframes are giving the tracker two different patterns to search between. So it knows what's coming up effectively. I'm going to create another keyframe right on the last frame of the occlusion. I'm going to create a keyframe. The second pattern is clear. And go forward a frame, and I'm going to create one more. So I've created 4 keyframes around the occlusion. My last good frame, my first next clean frame, and then 2 that are problem frames in the middle. Now the problem frames in the middle would throw the tracker off normally, so like any normal bit of tracking, we would track with an offset at this point. Obviously offset trackers only really work if the area that you're trying to track is within the same plane as the occluded area. Now I just adjust those two patterns to be as close as I can. I go to frame 22. Now frame 22 still has an offset. I've keyframed these offsets, so I need to keyframe no offset, so I use the clear offset button to get rid of it. And so now we've got keyframes either side of that occlusion. We head on down to a bit further down the shot. Create another keyframe. This is again just to help the tracker as this boat is coming towards us. The pattern it's trying to track has changed, so we're helping nudge it along to find the next pattern. Okay, and I'll do the same further down. If I go to the end, give it one last keyframe. Okay, and again just check these. Now I have forgotten about the wipe that occurs in the middle. So the beauty of this as well is I don't have to do this all in order. I can set keyframes as I need to, and this updates and nudges the other keyframes further down. So again, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to use my last good frame, my next frame which is a problem in it, up the top here. I'm going to find my next good frame, which is this one here. Step back, and I'll use my last problem frame. So good frame, problem frame, problem frame, good frame, and then offset on the problem frames. Check my offsets are good and patterns match. Okay, go forward a frame, and I've got to turn off the offset. So good frame, bad frame with offset, bad frame with offset, good frame. So moving down, I've now got a keyframe quite close to the other one, so I probably don't need this one anymore. So just go up to the top and remove the keyframe. You can see up here it's disappeared. So now I've set my keyframes throughout the whole shot. Now there's quite a lot of movement in this shot. Now with the old tracker I would have been able to adjust the search window and that would work throughout the whole shot, but because this is keyframe tracking, the search area is also keyframed and it only adjusts it on the frame that I'm on. So consequently I would have to go through the entire lot and adjust them. Anyway, let's see how it gets on with the search area that it's got. And now instead of using the normal tracking button, I'm going to use this new button, the key track all. Now I'm using key tracking. I want to track the entire shot. We have one next to it which is key track current, and this will track the keys either side of the keyframe that you're on. So if I had a keyframe on frame 1 and a keyframe on frame 30 and I was on frame 20 say, it will track from 1 to 30 for me. In this case I want to track all of them, so I'm going to press go. So now I want to check my track. What I like to do at the moment is use the zoom window here and just scroll through and see how well it got on. And it's done a pretty good job all the way through, except at the end here where it's gone a bit crazy. I can also turn on the traffic light system, and this shows me green for good errors or low errors, and red for high errors, and any yellow for in between errors as we go through. Now bear in mind that an error doesn't necessarily mean a bad track. An error can mean it did a good track but found the pattern to be quite different, but it still actually got it correct. So you need to check to see if the error is actually causing you an issue. As I go over there though, I can see, yes, we've definitely gone a bit wrong. So what can I do about it? Well, the first thing I have to do is figure out why has it gone wrong. And I think it's quite clear that my search area is not really wide enough at this point. Now because I've got this function on, retrack on move, so this means if I make any adjustments to the tracker between track keyframes, it will automatically fire off a retrack. So my nearest frame is frame 100 and 128. I'm just going to expand search window at this point, and it's kicked off a retrack between those two keyframes, with frame 19 being added in the middle there. And now I can see it's given me a good track on those bad frames. So the proof is in the pudding, so let's stick it to Stabilise. I'm using Stabilise 1 point here because if I've only got one tracker, it will give us the best result, and it basically locks the filter to keys. I'm going to play back and see what we've got. Well, it's done a pretty good job of those occlusions. Now that we stabilise the shot, we can actually see how bad the rolling shutter is. So it's possible that we could have sent this shot through a correction before we started working on it. So with keyframe tracking, we're effectively nudging the tracker into the right direction throughout the shot to achieve a good track. This is Howard Jones for the Foundry. Goodbye.